Welcome to everybody. Hello to this webinar on mixed methods analysis with MAXQDA. My name is Stefan and I work as a trainer and consultant for research methods and especially for the usage of MAXQDA, and I'm involved in the development of MAXQDA. Maybe some of you knew the book that Udo and I wrote on analyzing qualitative data with MAXQDA, which has been published by Springer. Or maybe you've already seen the new MAXQDA Press, where I've written together with Udo another book or a guide on analyzing open-ended survey questions with MAXQDA, where we deal especially with mixed methods data. Yeah, this about my person. We will have about 5 minutes where I will give a short introduction to mixed methods research and the idea of using it with MAXQDA. And then I'll start with the mixed methods features in MAXQDA and show you several features that are live with MAXQDA with 2 example projects, how you can link qualitative and quantitative data, how you can analyze variable values and code frequencies, how you can use joint displays like the Crosstab, the code matrix, or the document map. And you will see that you can enter questions in the chat. So anytime and after the presentation, I will check the chat and try to answer your questions as they arrive. And after the presentation, there will be some time for additional questions. So don't worry if I miss a question in the chat, I will come to back to it later. So let's start with a short introduction on mixed methods research in the context of MAXQDA. What is important here? I define mixed methods here as having qualitative and quantitative data in a single project. And the plus sign here in the middle is very important because the plus sign symbolizes the idea of integration. It's not only having a qualitative and a quantitative part in your study that are not connected or intertwined, but having qualitative and quantitative data and results combined and integrated on several stages. Usually, before you start or in a mixed methods project, you have the analysis of the qualitative data and you have analysis of quantitative data. MAXQDA supports both parts of your analysis. So for qualitative data, I think you're familiar with different import types of different data types like texts, tables, videos, web pages, or social media. And of course, you can explore your data. You can search for words and word combinations. You can comment and comment your data or use memos, etc. Of course, there's lots of possibilities for analyzing qualitative data in detail. You can use coding, you can use memoing, etc. and reporting. But it is also possible to use MAXQDA to analyze quantitative data. You can create frequency tables, you can create charts like box plots, histograms, or of course bar charts. You can create descriptive statistics, you can create correlations, and you can perform inferential statistic calculations like the analysis of variance or calculate a chi-square test and perform hypothesis tests with correlation data. So the question is now, how does MAXQDA support different kinds of integration of these data analytical tasks and special mixed methods tasks? And here I want to use the distinction that Udo and I are using in the context of mixed method when it comes to integration. Usually in a qualitative or in a mixed methods project, you have a qualitative strand symbolized here with these arm on the left side, like data collection, analysis, results. And you have a quantitative part in your study with data collection, analysis, and results. And the first thing that we will see is that there is result-based integration. which is indicated here by the blue arrows. Result-based integration can take part in any mixed methods project because you are combining the results, and this is possible in any mixed methods project. Sequence-based integration means that you take the results of a qualitative study or the results of the quantitative part of your study and use them to drive or to conduct your or to plan your other part, your qualitative study. So the integration takes place in a sequential manner. And then we distinguish the data-based integration, where the integration takes place during the analysis of data, where you include qualitative and quantitative data and you analyze them together in a software like MAXQDA. And this means that results-based integration is possible in any mixed methods project, but for data-based integration, you need to have qualitative and quantitative data for at least some of the cases that you can mix them during the analysis stage. Sequence-based integration takes place, of course, in sequential designs that Creswell and Vicky Plano-Clark, or the Journal for Mixed Methods Research, calls explanatory, exploratory designs, where the one study drives the data collection or the development of like an interview guide or questionnaire of the other part of the study. So the question is how MAXQDA fits into this. There's a question. I need to go back on that qualitative and quantitative side. What do you mean by meta interferences? I thought it is meta inferences. Oh yeah, that's right. It's just a typo. I'm sorry. It's meta inferences. It was just a typo from my side. Yeah. In mixed methods in MAXQDA, we have the options like here on the Mixed Methods tab, we have the Variables tab, we have the Stats tab. So not only the functions on the Mixed Methods tab allow us to work with mixed methods functions, but also on different places. And there are more, like the tab Visual Tools, for example, that you will see in some minutes, offers here some ways of dealing with mixed methods integration in MAXQDA. So this is the point where I switch to MAXQDA, and I have prepared here one project for you where we can look at the result-based integration. Here you see a project on urban gardening where we have included two results in a PDF. The findings are all concentrated in PDF, could be text documents also, of the qualitative part and quantitative part here in the document system. And in the code system, we have different codes here. For the start, we started with reasons for practicing urban gardening. And we've gone through this, both our results, and coded each part where we have important, or where we have important findings on our research questions. Here, for example, reasons for practicing. Here, for example, we have the reasons for practicing environmental education and ecological awareness, which means this is a typical qualitative result here as a theme or a category that arises through qualitative data analysis. I've already opened here the Mixed Methods tab because I want to start with this function, because this is used for result-based integration. It is the side-by-side display of results for coded segments. And here we have the option to compare the qualitative and the quantitative study. And usually in mixed methods, we are creating lots of joint displays that include qualitative and quantitative data and results. Here we can create such a display by dragging the qualitative study and the quantitative study here at the top, by selecting some things that we want to compare for this qualitative and quantitative study that we've conducted. These are data I've collected from another study. So MAXQDA now shows us this interactive matrix here, where we see that on the left hand, in the left column, we have qualitative findings, and on the right hand, we have quantitative findings. For example, here the topic environmental education and ecological awareness as one reason for practicing, and here the reasons, sometimes by the frequency of different reasons, here in the quantitative findings, and we can look at both columns and compare the results. Some may additional information and results, some may differ between the studies, and we can write down our results in a memo for this code, for example, and here we can include the meter inferences. Now I got it right here. I have meter inferences. Okay, which means that we can think of how do they fit together. We are doing more than just looking at the qualitative and the quantitative part, but we are linking them together on a result-based idea. So this is the idea of result-based integration in MAXQDA. And I switch to another project, which I have prepared here for showing you the database integration. This is a study on financial crisis, and it has been conducted with a survey. So we have open-ended questions which created qualitative data, and we have closed-ended questions that created standardized information for each participant. So for example, here we have respondent 2. The document is opened here, and here we have the answers of person 2 to an open question. How have you been affected by the financial crisis? And here you see not really much. Well, our cheaper car parking tickets have gone now, etc. And these are already coded with one or several codes, here with one code, with a code treble, which is here a subcode in our code system on the code how affected by financial crisis. In addition to the qualitative data, we have also here the data editor for document variables, where the information on the quantitative information on each participant from our study is stored. For example, here in the first row, here is respondent 2, and we know he or she is retired, is widowed, lives in a rural area, and belongs to the age group of the 70 to 79-year-old persons, and on a job security scale from 0, very insecure, to 4, very secure, the person rated it a 4. So we have qualitative and quantitative data here together in MAXQDA. And although here I have a project with 156 documents, you can use all the ideas that I'm showing here on smaller projects with 10 or 20 people or cases. So the data editor here with the quantitative data is the linkage to the qualitative data. And you can see if I click here on each line, MAXQDA, the blue heading here, the blue highlighter, follows my selection in the document variables window, and I can use it here for opening different documents and investigating their qualitative data. So I can use the quantitative information here by sorting it, for example, and looking for extreme cases that have rated their job security scale with a 4, by just sorting the column by clicking on the header here and by double clicking on a cell here, on a row here to open the document. This is the idea of extreme case exploration in mixed methods data analysis. So you don't need to enter all the quantitative data here by hand. If you have a survey, MAXQDA can import it automatically. And if you have it in an SPSS sheet, or if you have it in an Excel sheet, You can import the quantitative information just by clicking here on the icon Import Document Variables, so you don't need to enter all this data by hand. What we can do further, in addition to these ideas of mixed methods procedures, we can transform our qualitative work into quantitative work. So, for example, here we have the code family, which indicates that a person has said that his or her family has been affected by the financial crisis, and it was coded 28 times in the material. So what I can do now is that I can right-click on family and I transform it into a document. So what I can do here, or what happens now, is that MAXQDA creates a new variable in my data editor and adds it to the right here as a most right column, and it indicates for each case how often the code family has been assigned in the special document. Here I can see that family hasn't been coded for respondent 2, it hasn't been coded for respondent 8, but it has been coded for respondent 12. So if I open the document here, we'll see that the code family has been assigned here to this document. This is very helpful, and we call this quantitizing in mixed methods. We are transforming code frequencies into variable information so we can use it for further statistical analysis, etc. What we can do now is that we can use another function that's called mixed methods quantitizing to transform not only a single code into a variable, but several codes. For example, I could take pensions here, insecure, and income down, and you see now the quantitizing button here is active. If I click on it, MAXQDA will transform all codes and will add them here at the most right columns here in the data editor. So here MAXQDA will add them: pensions, insecure, income down. So we see that, for example, here none of the persons has been assigned both, except this one here. Person 3 to 8 has been assigned both the family code and the income down code, which we can see that both numbers here are higher than 0. This is the idea of transforming qualitative coding work into quantitative coding work. And please note that here MAXQDA uses black headings for columns in these tables which you cannot change, and blue columns where you can change the values. For example, here I can change the data inside the cell, but here I can't do a double click and it doesn't help to change it. But if I add code here, family, for example, for the first document, you will see that MAXQDA will increase the number here. So MAXQDA dynamically manages the information in these columns here and keeps them up to date while you continue working or while you continue deleting coding work, which is most times not necessary. So this is an important information for all tables in MAXQDA: black column headers against blue column headers. What we can do now is that we can check some of the functions here on the Mixed Methods tab, and I want to start with the Activate Documents by Variable. I close the data editor here. At the moment we don't need it. And I open the Activate Documents by Variables tab function. Here we have the option to access documents by their variable values. For example, we can now use the code family to only activate in MAXQDA all these documents where family has been coded where family is 1 or family is 1 larger or equal to 1. This means that we have 28 documents here. MAXQDA immediately evaluates this condition and informs me how many the cases, how many documents fit to this condition. And what I can do now is that I can create a new set here. If I click new set, MAXQDA will activate the documents, and activate means in MAXQDA selection for analysis. And MAXQDA created here a new group as a document set, which contains all the 28 documents. You can see it here because they are now all activated in this document set here, and these are linked to the original documents above. So these 28 documents now are in this group family is larger or equal to 1, and we can create another condition family is 0 and create another set where 128 people are included. MAXQDA here now has 2 document sets which are virtually the data document group here as a grouping idea of your sample. So here is another question, or 2 questions arise. I start with the last one. Transform and quantitizing left the original qualitative coding intact. Yeah, that's right. If you transform a code here into a variable, it doesn't harm the coding here in any kind. The transforming is more like adding as a variable. No, the original qualitative coding will never be destroyed. And then another question, can I do that with more than one code? Yeah, this is what I want to tell you. You can mix codes with variables. For example, we can add a condition here like region is urban. So what we can say that we want to have all the people where family has been coded and who live in a region, in an urban area. So what we have here is now just 15 persons in total fitting both conditions. And if we create a new set, you will see that only 15 people are in this document set, and both are here included in the name of the document set. What we can do now is that we can use the different these different groupings to select a subsample of our larger sample. In this whole sample, we have 158 documents, but maybe we want to just look at the persons where we have coded family at least once. So I activate here the families persons, which are 28, which you can see here at the bottom. 28 documents are selected for analysis. And what I can do now is that I go to the Variables tab and click on Document Variable Statistics. Now I have the option that I look, for example, for employment status, marital status, age group, region, job security scale, only for the activated documents. So I get an impression on how are the family or the persons where we have coded family been affected, or what are statistical characteristics for their for this group. What you see now here is that we are still working with a variable window and with the variables, and we are using them in different ways. So they are always coming up here, usually on the left, but we are doing different things with them. Sometimes we evaluate them, like now, we are counting with them. And we will add these here. Oh, there's a question if I will share the recorded presentation. Yeah, of course. I have to mention that we will publish this on YouTube, so you will see it there. You can just search for Mixed Methods and MAXQDA, and you will see it on YouTube. So what we see here is that I've created a frequency list, a frequency table for just the 28 persons that I have selected before. These are the family persons. 11 of them are employed, 10 are retired already, 3 are working in part-time, and 3 are unemployed. And we can create a diagram from this just by clicking on the diagram icon. Here we have percentages, which might be a problem just having 28 persons. So we can switch to absolute values here, which might be any problem. This is now sorted here by the number of frequency here of the persons. But this is not always the best sortings. For example, here for the age group, we need a different sorting, and you can do it by just going back to the frequency table and sort it by the first column. Now it's sorted by the age groups here. And if I reopen the diagram, now I see it starts with the 20 to 29-year-olds, and it goes up to the 60 to 69-year-olds. So what we see here is that lots of persons who are older say that their family is affected, or the other way around. From the persons where we have coded family, we see that they are usually in the group of the eldest persons. So nearly the half of them are 60 years old or up to 69 years old. So this is the idea, what you can do with the document variable statistics. Of course, you can do it for different groups. You can do it for all your data for analyzing your quantitative data. You can use it for analyzing code frequencies or several stuff like that. I want to continue with another data integration strategy, and that's on the Mixed Methods tab. You see that we have here the quote matrix and the interactive quote matrix. The quote matrix is here, I would say the other way around. The interactive quote matrix is a newer function and it offers more functions. So the quote matrix is still fine for exporting and creating tables, but usually you will use the interactive quote matrix. And what we will do now is that we will create an interactive quote matrix for all the codes here below how affected, all the subcodes, how the persons have been affected by the financial crisis. And the idea of the interactive quote matrix is that we can compare different groups that we define by quantitative data. So what we will do is we compare the qualitative information here by for different groups that we define by quantitative data. For example, I take the marital status here, and if I click the option Insert all variable values as conditions, MAXQDA will include all the available variable values that we've assigned to the marital status. Here, for example, here we have married partner, we have single, we have widowed. And there's a slight difference to the idea of activate documents by variables. You see, it's the same dialog, but here we have columns and here we have conditions. So while by activating by variables, we can have and or combinations, here we use this dialog for defining our columns. We are defining our groups just by having a single value. For example, here, we want to compare the marital, these groups only for the activated codes. And if you see the results, it should get more clear. We have now 3 columns here. 29 persons are married, 28 persons are single, and 14 persons are widowed. At the moment, we don't see any content here because we need to click on a code that contains here different that contains coded segments. For example, here the code jobs lost, or we can still use the code family where we've worked with before. So now we see what did the persons who are married said about family, what did the persons who are single said about family, and what did the persons who are widowed said about family. What did the person say? Sorry. So here we can compare the coded information, the qualitative information, by forming quantitative groups. We can write down our results here in the memo just by double-clicking on it, as nearly the same as we did in the result-based integration. But here we don't compare the results of our study, but we are still in the process of analyzing qualitative and quantitative data in a single part, together at once. So this is the idea of the interactive quote matrix. So interactive means that you can switch here between different topics. Interactive means that you can show and hide the source information, that you can click on the source information, and MAXQDA will jump to here the first code. Oh, where I have forgot to delete the family code here. So here MAXQDA will bring us directly to the original context. So if you're working with interviews, for example, you can see the context, what has been said before our coded segments, what has been said after the coded segments. The qualitative data is always connected. And interactive means also that I can switch on and off codes. For example, I would say not affected is not relevant here. So if I deactivate it here in the code system, MAXQDA will drop it immediately from the interactive quote matrix, or the other way around. If I activate it here in the code system, it will appear here. Thanks for another question in the chat. I will answer it later after my presentation here. It's a general question. So we have also the option to search here inside the interactive quote matrix, and so on and so on. I will keep it open and show you the next function, which is called the Crosstab. But before this, I will answer the question if there is a possibility to export these data. Yes, there is. If I click on Word, I get a Word table containing this data, and the columns are formed here by these codes, or I can export it to Excel, or here you have all the possibilities, and also website is possible, but usually you will export it to Word or to Excel if you have a very large data set. Yeah, this is possible to export it and to continue working outside MAXQDA. For example, you add another column here where you put your insights, different possibilities. I keep it open here. I will select jobs lost, and I will continue the Crosstab function. Crosstab means that I create the same table as the interactive quote matrix, but I'm not focusing on qualitative information, but I'm focusing on the quantitative information, on the code frequencies. So I create the same table here, but I don't get the original texts here, but I get the information, for example, on jobs lost, on family, and how often it appears in the material. So here you see 28 coded segments, 28 coded segments, 6 coded segments, 6 coded segments, 1 coded segments. Here we have 1 coded segment. So the first line here is displayed in detail with all the underlying qualitative data here in the interactive quote matrix, while the Crosstab only focuses on the frequencies here displayed at the top in this interactive quote matrix. So what we can see here now is that we have lots of persons here at 28 coded segments from married partner at jobs lost, and we could think, oh, that's very often that married partner are losing their are talking about losing job. But of course we need to take into account that the groups are not from the same size. So usually the best idea is to use column percentages based on the number of documents, which means we are having here the ability to compare the different columns by percentages. Here you see that it's really one very high here, only 7.1 widowed percentage percent of the widowed persons is dealing with the jobs lost, while it is 29 or nearly 30% from the married partner group. So now we can make better comparisons, but of course you need to be careful when using quantifications and qualitative studies. We could make we can have a whole webinar on this. But now that also the Crosstab is interactive, a double click here on this cell lists all the 28 coded segments here in the retrieved segments window, and these are the information that have been presented in the reactive quote matrix. I can access them here from the Crosstab cell by cell and present them in the retrieved segments. Also, this table can be exported to Excel, to Word, or wherever you like. You can take a screenshot from it and include it in your study. So when I continue here with the mixed methods tab, I have here the typology table, which I will come back to when I talk about statistics by qualitative groups, which will be in just a few moments, because these are the same functions but having different option dialog boxes. I want to show you the similarity analysis for documents, which is here included in MAXQDA for checking documents by their similarity regarding the assignment of codes and the assignment of variable values. For example, what we can do is that we can create a new similarity or distance matrix where we include all the subcodes here from how affected. What I do here is that I include all the subcodes here, jobs lost, family, etc. And we have the option to look for the existence of a code or to look for the code frequency. Usually it is enough to look for the existence of a code. And here we have different similarity measures like simple matching or Jacquard. I choose Jacquard because I don't want to take into account now how often a code hasn't been applied, but just we take it as a similarity if the documents are sharing the same codes here. And I want to do it for all documents, and what I get is a very large table here. It is 156 documents by 156 documents, and everywhere we see is one. We know that both documents, the respondent 4 and the respondent 17, have been coded with the same codes. So this is the idea of exploring similarity analysis, but there is a much more interesting tool in MAXQDA 20, which is included in the Visual Tools tab, and which is called Document Map. It uses the same calculation in the background, but offers me a more sophisticated way to visualize my results. For example, I can and I switch off the activation here just not to confuse you. And I can select the same codes as I did before in the distance matrix. But now MAXQDA plots all the documents, all the 156 documents here on this surface regarding their similarity. And here we are doing typical mixed methods stuff because we are using the code frequencies and a mathematical procedure to visualize the data. And what you can see here is, for example, that we have 19 documents where only jobs lost has been coded. You see it at the bottom of my tooltip here that comes up when I place my mouse on this icon, on this bubble here, on this yellow circle here. And it's all the persons here in yellow are sharing one point there. We have coded jobs lost here and an additional code. And the blue ones here, we have coded family and an additional code. And for the green ones, we have coded family and also some special additional codes. And for the blue ones, we have Here, for example, insecure, and here we have the typical idea of this group is that we only have documents where family and jobs lost, the most frequent codes, haven't been coded. So what we can do now is that we can save this as an activation here. We can say activate all the documents from this color, from this cluster. And now MAXQDA activates all these documents here. We can store them in a document set. We can store them as a group, for example. Or we can save the clusters as a variable. So you see there's also tools for mixed methods analysis here in the visual tools. So to continue with one last thing is here the statistics by qualitative groups, because the qualitative things by quantitative groups does the same as the interactive quote matrix. We have already discussed the results of this function. So the one thing that is new here is statistics by qualitative groups. What we can do here is that we can compare the statistical values for groups that we have formed by using the qualitative data. What I do here now is that I open this dialog and I take another code that we've used here. It's called holidays comment. So the persons have been asked, how were your holiday planning affected by financial crisis? And some said, I cannot afford holidays anymore because of the financial crisis. Or some of them said, oh, live for the present, holiday, we are coming. So what we have here, we have very small groups, very small subsamples from our bigger samples. But it's also interesting to look if these groups with the 10 persons and the group with the 4 persons here differ in characteristical statistics. For example, we could have the hypothesis that they differ in age group. So what I can do is that I add age group as a variable here, or I could have the hypothesis that they differ in the job security scale. And what we get now is here a result table presenting us how many of the persons who have said, where we have coded cannot afford, are in the age group of 20 to 29, and how many are in the from the live for the present group are in the age group from 20 to 29. If I click on OK, I get here this result, and I can highlight the most highest value per column. This makes it easier to compare the differences. So what we see here is that none of the persons from the live for the present is in the age group of 20 to 29, but most of them are older. They are in the 60 to 69-year-old group, and their job security scale is higher. If we compare the mean here, 2.0 is higher than 1.5 of the group of the cannot afford persons. So of course we need to take into account that we have only 4 persons here, and we can just take this as an idea for starting or for further digging and for further analysis. But it's very interesting to see that here we have these differences in these job security scale or in the age group. Yeah, these are the ideas of statistics for qualitative groups. And I just want to give you a short impression of stats, at least. Stats means that MAXQDA contains a whole module for conducting quantitative analysis like a statistical package. And I can start with all my documents, and MAXQDA will do 2 things. It takes the document variables that I've shown you at the beginning of our session here and display them in a way that usually statistic programs do. For example, if you compare it to SPSS, you will see some similarities, like here's the data editor, here's the variable list from our project where we can define and change our variables. And here we have, for example, the person 2 that we've already known, who's retired, widowed, 70 to 70-year-old. But also in the background, MAXQDA converted and quantized all codes from our project, the whole codes. And what we can do now is use them for mixed methods calculations here in the way by comparing groups, for example. I can do an analysis of variance. You don't need to be familiar with this routine. Just seeing here that we can switch between variables and codes here. We can use, for example, the codes like family or jobs law. We can use the job security scale as a dependent variable. This is the variable. And we can use the code, for example, jobs lost, and place them directly here. We don't need to quantize them before. We can have them as accessible here in a special tab in stats, and we can perform calculations here and use them for compare these 1.88 mean to the 2.01 mean here on the job security scale between the persons where we have coded jobs lost here on the right with 1 and the 0 where we didn't have coded jobs lost. So MAXQDA stats allows us to create and to calculate several of our ideas on or several mixed methods data here. So if I switch back here to our presentation, there are additional possibilities for database integration. I just want to mention them here. Statistics for subcodes, where we can see how often a subcode has been applied to the material. We can use summary tables with mixed data, where we have summaries of the coded segments here, which we have written on our own, which we can present here in a table with mixed data, where we have quantitative information here on the right. And here we have some conclusions. So there is MAXQDA supports qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods analysis. Especially the database integration benefits from the use of the software. This is the heart here of mixed methods in MAXQDA. Joint displays, you've seen a lot of them. Joint displays are integrating data or results, quantitative and qualitative, both together and array them in a single display. You can use them for analysis, for creating hypotheses, and for result presentation. If you are looking for the data for practicing mixed methods, you can use the sample projects, or you can send me an email and I can send you some of the project to practice with. Where do you find more information? You will always have the chance to click on the info icon in a MAXQDA, because then you will be directly submitted to you can just directly access this manual via the info icon, via the info symbol in the MAXQDA program. You can have a look at chapter 13, which is dedicated to mixed methods analysis in our book here, which is now freely available at Springer Link at the moment. And Rediker and Kuckartz, we've also, I'll show you here at MAXQDA Press. MAXQDA Press, we have this analyzing open-ended survey questions with MAXQDA, which deals with mixed methods procedures, how you can include open-ended and closed-ended questions in a single study, and you can download this as free from the MAXQDA Press site. This is the idea of working with mixed methods data with MAXQDA. Of course, this was just a short introduction. I hope you had some ideas. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your attention and all the best for your projects. Have a good time. Bye-bye.